Hey everybody, and welcome to my rambling review of Linkin Park's newest album, From Zero. Because everyone's just dying to hear what another random guy like myself on the internet has to say about it. So let's add to the discussion. Disclaimer, just ahead of time, I will not be comparing Emily, I think is the new vocalist name, right? To Chester. There's no point to it. So just if that's what you're expecting, it won't be here. So don't worry about it. You can move on. I will be comparing the newest album, though, From Zero to their previous work. So anything else that they've made, there will be comparisons between the two of them. But there will be no specifically like, oh, Chester did this better, blah, 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 blah. Nothing like that. Let's just get right into it. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going through this succinctly. So each song, give my opinion, and then we'll have a little discussion at the end about some other things. Now, I have not heard, the only songs I've heard off of this album before are The Emptiness Machine and which one was it? Heavy is the Crown. I've heard that one a couple times, and then I listened to Emptiness Machine a good amount of times as well. Every other song on this album, I've only listened to once on my playthrough right before making this review. It's just going to be knee-jerk gut reactions and what I felt immediately as soon as I was listening to it. So with that being said, let's dive in. So we're going to start with From Zero, the intro. There's not really much to say about it. It's a 22-second little intro. It's a short, abstract opening to the album. What was it? Like, there's stuff about it that I like. I like intros. One of the things that was a little jarring about it, though, was the cutoff. Just felt like it was oddly placed. I don't know if that was just me when it was going into the Emptiness Machine. I wish it kind of focused more on the initial vocal melody and kind of built off of that instead of just having that little, how do you say it, like just the spoken word part. Well, it wasn't even spoken word, just the conversation little MP3 thrown in there. Which, I mean, is cool for the reference to be like, oh, wow, it's starting from zero. It's like the explanation for the album kind of situation. Like, starting from zero, first band's name was Zero with an X. Like, that's cool. Like, I love the reference. But when you go and you look at the Spotify plays, every other song on the album that wasn't a single has over 6 million plays, while From Zero has 45,000 as of this recording. So... not a lot of people are very interested in it, and I don't really blame them because you're not really missing much by not listening to it. It's cool, but it doesn't blend as well as I think like a song like Forward did into Don't Stay on Meteora. It doesn't have that continuity. You honestly could just play the album starting from the Emptiness Machine and get the same experience, in my opinion. So while it's cool, it's not, it's a 22-second little intro. Like, it's just there. So there's on to the next one, The Emptiness Machine. So this is one of my favorites actually on the album. When I heard it, because I watched the initial stream when they came back, and Emily first showed off her well, they first opened with the song and they first showed off Emily, rather, I should say. I thought the song was interesting, but also it was a little hard to understand it in the live setting. But like actually listening to the single once it was officially released, it quickly grew on me. Honestly, I thought it was really, really good. It had a lot of great energy to it. It felt like a Linkin Park song. Like, this is something I could hear on Minutes to Midnight kind of era Linkin Park. And it was a really, really good song overall. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The hook in the chorus was really, really great. I mean, it really showcased her ability as a vocalist as well, which I really I appreciated. Showed just how good she was. Because I mean, a live setting, she was definitely nervous on that stream when I watched it. You could hear it wasn't the greatest. Some pitches weren't that great either, but listening to the actual like studio production, like this is what we envisioned it to sound like. It is a very good song. I thoroughly enjoy it. The vocals were fantastic. A lot of the composition of the song was really, really great. Like I said, it felt like a Minutes to Midnight era Linkin Park song, and honestly, I got nothing really bad to say about it. I thought it was a fantastic, technically opener to the album, because considering, like I said, a lot of people aren't listening to the intro itself. So as like an opener to the album, starts off really, really strong and on a really strong, on a great foot. However, then we fall into the problem of the following song, in my opinion. This is Cut the Bridge. This is probably my least favorite song on the album, if I'm going to be honest. I think what really does it for me, honestly, is the mix. Like, you go from a song like The Emptiness Machine, it has this really full, broad spectrum of frequencies. You got the low end, the high end, your mid, yada, 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 all that stuff. But when you come to Cut the Bridge, it just, the mix feels really, really flat by comparison to The Emptiness Machine. And even subsequently, the preceding song, Heavy as the Crown. Like if you put Heavy as the Crown and Emptiness Machine back to back, they would have sounded, like the mixes would sound comparable to each other. Cut the Bridge, the mix is just, like I said, it's very flat. There's something about it that's off-putting that I can't quite put my finger on. Well, actually, it's probably because it just doesn't feel like there's any low end to the song. Most of it's just mid and up, and then the low end that is there, it doesn't feel as impactful. I understand that from when I was listening to it, there were instances where it's just like, okay, the verses didn't really have much to show for it, but then when you got to like the chorus, that's when the low end came in. So that's going to give the song dynamic and a little bit of what's I'm looking for, contrast between the verses and the chorus. However, I feel like it did the song collectively more damage than it benefited. Like I get the concept, but it's hard to listen to. And the mix just really doesn't doesn't make me want to listen to it. It just sounds very flat. And not only that too, the song really as well, just it feels, I don't know if this is just because of the mix and it's like, oh geez, I just hope the song gets over with kind of thing. I'm not really enjoying this. I feel like the song also kind of overstays its welcome a little bit. Like, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's it's the only song on the album that's closest to breaking 4 minutes. It's 3 minutes and 48 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But I could have seen it realistically being like a 2 minute and 30 second, 3 minute song. Like before that bridge happens, I think it is at around the 2 minute and 30 minute mark. It probably could have you could have wrapped it up relatively around that part and you would have still gotten the same experience. Just me personally, I don't think it was that great of a song. Like it's a song, it's something there, but it feels more like it's filler. It doesn't have the same energy and it doesn't have the same impact that it felt like The Emptiness Machine had. It might just also be the placement of the song. Like you go from a song that's really upbeat and full sounding mix-wise with The Emptiness Machine, and then you go to Cut the Bridge and it's kind of like a little bit of a head scratcher. Like, I mean, yeah, you've got a high BPM and it's going dun, 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 dun. So you got that little bit of upbeat kind of rhythm to it, but it's just a mixture of things where, like I said, the mix is not doing it for me. I feel like the song's a little too long, and it, like, the placement of it might just be what the problem itself is. Another thing too, the chorus, just there's nothing really like catchy about it. It exists. It's there. I feel like the verses are more memorable than the actual like chorus is. The verses almost feel hookier with that dun, 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 going on in the background again. The chorus just again just doesn't. There's not really much memorable about the song besides the verses. And then when you do have the verses, the only highlight is that there's you know, you've got Mike doing Mike, essentially. Mike's just being Mike, laying out his bars, doing his stuff. And but then that is also hindered by, in my opinion, the mix of the song. So definitely my least favorite on the album as a whole. I didn't really enjoy it. Maybe if I listened to it more, it might grow on me, but just from what I listened to, and oh, actually, to be fair, this is one song that I listened to 3 separate times to make sure I wasn't going insane and that the mix wasn't the problem. I listened to it through my Logitech stereo headphones. I then listened to it with my studio AKGs, and then I listened to it in my car with that has stereo JBLs, and all of them had the exact same sound, where it just there's no low end. The song just feels hollow. That's probably a better way of saying it. The song just feels hollow and a little bit flat. There's just like no body to it. It's just it. And I think the placement of this song following the Emptiness Machine really did it a disservice and really hurt, in my opinion, of it more than it might have already been if the song was placed somewhere else. Because then at that point it would just be like, I don't like the mix. But honestly, just the mix of where it is in retrospect to the Emptiness Machine and Heavy as the Crown is probably what's really doing it. So definitely my least favorite song on the album. But the next song, Heavy as the Crown, this is definitely one of the better songs on the album. Listening to this, it's got a modernized, the best way I could describe it is it's a modernized Meteora style. It's not necessarily that the old Meteor style isn't modern, because a lot of bands to this day are still trying to catch and capture what Meteor and Hybrid Theory was able to. But it's just, what I mean by modern is it's more modern influences. You know, we've got different bands, different influences, and different kinds of styles that have evolved over the years since since both Hybrid Theory and Meteora came out. This one feels like it leans more to the Meteora style, but just with more modern influences, essentially. I think it's got a really, really great hook. The 15-second scream that they've got on it, I did try to count that. I think it's 15 second. I mean, if you're going to count the extra 2 seconds behind or the extra like second and a half or 2 seconds of the words she's saying before she starts actually holding out the note or the scream itself, then you could argue it's a 17-second scream at that point. But I thought that this song was a great chance and for Emily to show her like ability, you know, that she can scream, that she can do all this stuff, which is cool. I do enjoy that. As a heavier song on the album, knocks it out of the park. It's definitely got the old school Linkin Park vibes. So there's really not much to say about this song. It is a good song. That is pretty much all I have to say about it. It is a good song, catchy chorus, catchy riffs, you know, the typical bouncy kind of riffs. Going on to the next song, Over Each Other. So this one is a fantastic follow-up to Heavy as the Crown. I would say that this is probably not one of the songs, but this is the first song on the album that you'll listen to if you listen to it sequentially. This is probably the first song that I listened to, or that I heard off the album, that really showed that this was a deviation from like the Linkin Park of old, and like it really shows that in this one. And that's not a bad thing, because obviously they were talking about this is a new chapter, this is a new era of Linkin Park for obvious reasons. Chester's no longer with us, so you know, there's no point to try to recapture the same kind of what's I'm looking for, lightning in a bottle that they had with Chester just in general as a vocalist, because he was so unbelievably unique and so dynamic as a vocalist himself. Um, but like, just because it doesn't sound like Linkin Park doesn't mean it's a bad song. It just shows, like, what I mean by that is, like, if somebody was to show me this, like, if I never listened, because I'd never listened to Over Each Other, I did find out it was a single, but I had never actually listened to it. But if someone had shown me this single, because I was somebody who was willing to give this album a shot, interested to hear what they had to say, or had to say and had to show, essentially. If somebody was to show me this Over Each Other as a song and didn't tell me it was Linkin Park, I would still love the song. I would not know that it was Linkin Park. I would not, like, at all. It might sound familiar because of the vocalist, but to be completely fair, if we're going to compare it between the two previous singles that I listened to, which was The Emptiness Machine and Heavy as the Crown, most of the time she's screaming or pitch screaming on that. Whereas with Over Each Other, it's pretty, it's much more melodic. Like, the screaming took a backseat in this song, which I appreciated. I thought it was actually kind of necessary. To give the album as a whole, it's ups and downs, it's ebbs, and it's ebbs and flows, I think it's the term. So that was really, really nice. I did genuinely like that. Definitely one of the best songs on the album, and in my opinion, one of the best choruses, if not the best chorus. Like, this probably is like top 2 choruses on this album for me. It was this is definitely like one of the top 2 contenders for the best chorus on the album. This song really just showed off what Emily is actually capable of as a vocalist, just in general. Like, yeah, she could scream. Great, that's cool. But I mean, just because Chester could scream didn't make him a fantastic vocalist, kind of situation. That's what I liked about old style Linkin Park, was it wasn't just about the scream, it was about the song. Where was it needed? When wasn't it? And I think that this song really was necessary after listening to the previous 3, because while The Emptiness Machine had more singing, like melodic singing in it, Cut the Bridge was just really her just shouting, like kind of pitch screaming almost on the chorus. And that was quite buried in it too. And then Heavy as the Crown, most of the time it was, even if it was a melodic singing, it was definitely layered with screams underneath it. It was just really, really nice to hear just a more melodic style underneath, or not underneath, but present and upfront on all of these other songs, or in this song by comparison to the other 3 that I'd listened to previously. I'd say almost to an extent, it sounds like a more refined version of Heavy off of One More Light. But the difference with this song is they just were writing to write, or, they weren't trying to follow the Chainsmokers trend. Like, I did watch there was like an interview or something with Mike back then where he said, we're trying to beat a trend or follow a trend. And by the time the album comes out, we've already missed it. We may have already missed it, kind of situation. And that's what happened with One More Light. And while the songs on that album aren't my favorite, but I don't hate them, this song as a whole just feels like it was what Heavy or other songs off of that album could have been if they weren't trying to trend hop and just follow trends. If they were just to write stuff just to write it. But definitely one of my favorite songs off the album. Following the next one, Casualty. This, when I heard it, immediately first thing that came to my mind, you guys can tell me if you thought the exact same thing. Immediately, all I thought was, this is Victimized 2.0. This is literally Victimized off of Living Things. That is immediately what I'm hearing. It is I think it's a 2.5 minute song, right? Something like that. Little less than that. I don't know. But immediately as soon as I heard that, this is Victimized. Absolutely, 100%. This is Victimized. It's a great heater of a song, but my one thing with this is I feel like there could have been more to it. This song, a great example of what I'm talking about, and then I don't know if other people might feel the same way. You can tell me if you do or not. What is it? Oh God, I forgot the song. No, The Seventh Circle by Architects off of Holy Hell, their 2018 album. That song, I believe, is like a minute 47 seconds, something like that. And while it's a great song, it's heavy, it's brutal, it's like, oh yeah, more. Like, not just because it's heavy, but just the song, while it's cool, when I listen to it, it's like there could have been more here. Like, and it's not just, it doesn't feel like you're stretching out the song. Like, it just feels like it abruptly stops, and it just leaves you kind of wanting more than anything. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, it makes the song not underwhelming, but it makes the song feel like it's not giving you everything it has. Like, I honestly, it's not like it needed to be a 4-minute song. This could have easily added on another 30, 40 seconds, 30, 45 seconds onto it, and I would have been pleased. And I think it probably would have made it like a 3-minute song at that point. But the one thing about this, which is one of the, it was kind of getting a little tiresome, I noticed when I was listening to it. There just seems to be an overemphasis on her screaming in a lot of these songs, rather than a nice kind of blend between, singing, screaming, and then Mike doing his thing, which is cool. But just because it's heavy doesn't mean it's good. But also the same goes for the opposite as well. Just because it's not heavy doesn't mean it's good, which is kind of why like having Over Each Other and Casualty right next to each other is this weird duality, because it's like Over Each Other is not a heavy song, but I really love it, and I really love heavy music. Casualty arguably is probably one of the heavier songs on this album, if not arguably the heaviest, besides, I'd say, maybe Two-Faced. Or yeah, I gave you everything have, maybe. But point being is, like, it's heavy, but it's just, it doesn't do it for me. Like, there's nothing there that's gonna make me go back, like, to be like, oh, I need to listen to Casualty again. That was fantastic. Like, it's a cool song when it comes on, but it's the same thing with Victimized. Like, Victimized was cool. I think this song does a lot better of a job than Victimized did. But there's nothing that really makes me want to go back to listen to it. And it's the same thing with Victimized. I have no interest to be like, oh, I want to listen to Victimized. If it comes up, it comes up. But it's not a song I am dying to listen to again. And I think that's a problem with a lot of these, like, short heater songs. Like, they're just like really, really heavy for whatever the band is doing. Like, this Casualty is arguably a heavy song for what Linkin Park does and has been doing for like the past, I don't know what, even before Chester passed away, like 8 years at that point, probably even more, 10 years, probably since like Given Up. Because I don't think anything off The Hunting Party was really this arguably heavy. But yeah, it's just other bands are really doing like the heavier song better. This one, while it's not bad, it wasn't knocked out of the park, in my opinion. Where is it? Overflow. So this one was definitely a little bit more of an experimental song. It felt like, imagine it almost as if Session off of Meteora had vocals on it. That's pretty much how I would describe this song, listening to it. Definitely interesting. I enjoyed the dynamic between Mike and Emily's vocals. I thought that was really, really cool. Added a nice contrast. Um, I think there should be a lot more times where Mike has the ability, because so far Mike hasn't really been doing much on the album so far, which is a little disappointing. I feel like he should have a little bit more of a place in it. Because realistically, at this point, he's only done stuff in 1, 2, 3 songs, and we are already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're 7 in already. So he's only done like something in half of the songs. Yeah, he might be doing backing vocals, but like if we're gonna be honest here, backing vocals usually get blended in. You're not gonna really hear them unless you're like pointed out like that's Mike, or if you're like really trying to pay attention for it. But what I mean by participating is like he's front and center, like this is Mike's part kind of situation. I thought the song had a lot of potential. Like, I really, really loved it. I thought it, like, this song is 3.5 minutes, I believe. And this was one of the songs at this point where I would have been fine with it eclipsing the 5-minute mark, and I would have loved every minute of it. There was just something about it that was really, really intriguing, and I enjoyed. I really liked the broodiness of it, the melody. But just like Casualty, I felt like this song had more to offer. You know, like it wasn't expanded upon, I guess is a better way of saying it. There was definitely, like, there was more to it that just doesn't feel like it was given to us, essentially. Like, yeah, it had more to offer. It, like, that's basically all I have to say about that song. Enjoyed it. Not my favorite, but definitely one of my favorites on the album. So now we get to Two-Face. So this is definitely, I mean, there's nothing, there really is not a lot that I can say against this song at all. Like, this is probably, this is, how do I say it? This is one step closer to The Edge and I'm About to Break. Like, like it just felt like one step closer. Like, this could have absolutely gone on a Hybrid Theory, even if it was like a B-side, and it would have still worked perfectly, or like a deluxe version kind of situation, or even as a demo, and it would have fit. Like what they did with the 20 Year for Meteora kind of situation. Like, this was by far the closest thing I think we have gotten to old school classic Linkin Park, like off of the Hybrid Theory Meteora era, that genuinely just sounds like that that era. And what I mean by that is, yeah, some of these other songs I've said, oh, they sound like this. Like, you know, Overflow sounds like Session with lyrics on it. But it's not like with those songs, they have a like there's more of a modern kind of style to it, like what I was talking about earlier with which one was it? With Heavy as the Crown. Two-Face, that is 2000s. That is early 2000s through and through. Nothing more to say about that. That's like literally that would fit perfectly on Hybrid Theory, and it has one of the better hooks of the album as a whole. Like, it is really, really good. Going to the next one. I mean, because like I said, there's not really much else to say about it. Like, Two-Face, listen to it. If you like Linkin Park, that like old school Linkin Park, that is what I'm going to show you. That is literally like as close as we will probably ever get again. Maybe, who knows? Stained. So this one was interesting to me. The song feels like a hybrid between both. What was it? Over Each Other and Overflow, which is funny because they're off the same album. But you get that catchy pop melody and that hook from Over Each Other mixed with like the electronic experimental kind of foundation of Overflow, just to kind of like hold the song together. It's not doing anything crazy, it's just letting the vocals kind of speak. Has one of the better hooks on the album as well. Definitely not better than Two Faced or Over Each Other, but definitely I'd say it's probably on par in my opinion with Emptiness Machine's hook. Definitely like pretty good. Like definitely, like I said, one of the better hooks on the album. But this one falls, like this song falls in the same situation as Over Each Other, where it just doesn't sound like Linkin Park. Like as a whole, again, if you were to show me this song and not tell me it's Linkin Park, I wouldn't have a clue that it, like, obviously no Chester, it's a new vocalist, like I said before, but like, case in point, like Two Faced. You listen to that instrumental, that sounds like Brad. That sounds like Brad's work. That literally, that is quintessential to the T Linkin Park right there. But if you go and you listen to Stained, there's none of that foundation with any of the instrumental that makes you think like, oh, this sounds like Linkin Park with a new vocalist. Like it doesn't. It sounds like a completely different band. Now that, again, that's not a bad thing, but the song as a whole, while it's not bad, I don't think it does as good of a job at holding itself in this album as Over Each Other does. Like it's got a great chorus, but the rest of it is just a little it kind of goes in one ear out the other kind of situation. The chorus is good, but everything else about it is just a little lackluster. This might be a song that grows on me as I listen to it, but that's just my initial reaction, my initial gut reaction to listening to it. I gave you everything I had or have. Now, case in point right here. Intro riff. Very Linkin Parky. 100%. That is, cannot even argue with that. That again sounds like something off of Hybrid Theory. Like it is very, very good. Very catchy. And you're like, it gets you amped up. You're like, absolutely, let's go. Like this is a kind of riff you want to hear when you're gonna go to the gym and go lift weights kind of situation. You're like this is gonna amp you the hell up to go do what you gotta do. I appreciate that it's a classic song, like a classic style instrument, like Linkin Park instrumental with Emily singing more on it and less screaming, because a lot of the times it just feels like they just keep like she just keeps screaming everything. And while cool, screaming's great, I love music with screaming in it. It just it gets overused. Like how do I say it? Like I want more hooks from a Linkin Park. I want the heavy stuff, but I want the heavy stuff to have more impact. I don't want it to feel like it's just another heavy band trying to sound like they're imitating Linkin Park instead, which is what I Gave You Everything I Had or Have kind of sounds like to me. To an extent. Well, I shouldn't say to an extent. Not everything I have. My bad. Wrong one. Which is more so what Casualty and Heavy as the Crown, while it is good, does kind of sound a little bit more like. I wish there was more Mike in the verses for the song. Again, like I said before, Mike is really not that present on a lot of these songs, which I feel is a missed opportunity, especially, for the songs where it's bringing that old school Linkin Park kind of vibe. Like, yes, he's there, and I gave you everything I have, but I wish there was more of him instead of just like a 2-bar phrase or something like that. And he repeats that twice. One thing I really did not like about this song is the ending, and I counted. It's technically like a 51 second, but I just rounded it up to a minute at this point. The ending minute of the song is really, really repetitive. Lyrically, at least. Like, yeah, okay, it's cool. Like the instrumental's doing its thing, but saying the same thing over and over again. I actually already forgot what the what it was, the phrase was, but basically just say the exact same thing for a minute over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I'm sure you were just getting annoyed by me saying that over and over and over and over and over again, because that's exactly what it just felt like when I was listening to that. You definitely could have spiced that up with, every fourth repeat, there could have been like a slight variation to the melody vocally wise, specifically talking about vocals, not talking about the instrumental itself, but specifically talking about vocals. You could have done like a little pitch scream kind of thing. You could have just changed the melody to singing or something, like, or you could have lyrically done 2 lines that went back to back, because then that would have broken up the repetition a little bit better. I just think saying the same thing over and over again for nearly almost a minute straight is quite annoying. Like, come on, like 20, 30 seconds kind of situation, maybe, but that just, it was tiresome to listen to. By the end of that, I was just kind of like, please, can I get to the next song? This is annoying me almost as much as Cut the Bridge did. So, where is it? Yes, now to the final song on the album. This is probably, without a doubt, as of this moment, my favorite song on this album. Good Things Go is such a good song. To me, it feels like it's almost as if Leave Out All the Rest had a darker and more brooding kind of instrumental with lyrics akin to that of like Numb or even like Lost. Like, it's a really, really, really good song. I love the dynamics with Mike and Emily vocally on this. I think they really knocked it out of the park. I'm glad to hear Mike was on another song at least. What is it? Yeah, I would say this is probably it's either this song for me, it's either Good Things Go or Over Each Other that could claim the trophy for the best chorus on the album, in my opinion. This one might sneak it out, personally. If I had to really like gun to my head, which one am I gonna go for? I'd probably say Good Things Go. It's just a very, very good song and a very good chorus. Honestly, also a fantastic close to the album. Like, there's so much emotion in it, and her vocal performance as well, that it leaves an impression. You're like, holy crap, this is amazing. I love this. My only problem is, it's a shame you have to wait for a song that's like, holy crap, this is fantastic. I'm like, as soon as I heard this song, I fell in love with it. Like, this, it's so good. But it's like a shame you have to wait an entire album to hear a song like this. Granted, the impact of its placement makes sense, because I think it wouldn't fit anywhere else on this album besides being the closer of it. But I wish some of the other songs had this kind of impact, this kind of emotion. But let's see. So that's all my reviews for each of the songs. Now, as a whole, I'd say this album is a solid 7.2 out of 10. 5 being average, 0 being awful, 10 being a masterpiece. I could see me listening to this album, throwing it on, listening to it. I could see some of these songs growing on me more. Like Stand could probably grow on me. I Gave You Everything I Had could probably grow on me. Overflow, Casualty. Don't have high hopes for Cut the Bridge, but we'll see. But I could see those songs growing on me a little bit. I could easily see this song in a couple months, maybe even a couple weeks of me making this review. I might edit it in the description with an update to the rating. I could see this coming out to maybe like a 7.5, maybe even a little bit higher depending. But as of this moment, it's a solid 7.2. And that's, that's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, it's at the end of the day, this album was always gonna be divisive. Like, these people haven't made an album like as a group in 7 years. So probably even a little bit longer than that, because usually album cycles or albums are completed before the release anyways. So I think One More Light came out in 2017, like February or something like that, March. So they were probably done with the album probably around it would have been Q4 2016. So it's been a while since they started working on this. So I'd say about 6 years. Yeah, let's say about 6 years. 6, almost 7 years. Definitely not a bad album to come back for, especially, if we're going to give this the treatment of, it's Linkin Park, but it's not Linkin Park. This is not a bad album. Honestly, this album has a lot more going for it than, in my opinion, some of their previous work. But, like I said, this album was going to be divisive no matter if it was, like, this could have been a 10 out of 10 and it still would have been divisive because the way people are reacting to Linkin Park coming back without Chester. And I understand the sentiment, but at the same time, you guys got to really move on. Like, Chester was in the band. He was the voice of the band. But everybody else in that group has every right to continue the band without him. Like, he was the voice, but he was not Linkin Park. That is the truth, because everybody in that band was Linkin Park. They have every right to continue to keep going. And, a lot of the drama that was stirred up just because of her, like Emily joining the band and all that crap, like, who cares? Who cares? At the end of the day, like, people need to understand that, like, this, like, it's a creative endeavor, like the band is a creative endeavor. They're there to create. They are there to make the stuff that they want to make, whether or not people approve of it or not. And I respect that. I've never been a fan of a lot of their music since 2007. I do enjoy some of their songs, but one of the things, I mean, not to go on too much of a rant here, but one of the things that always frustrated me with a lot of their material was that, well, I'll say that I'll say that for a quick second later. But, like, 2 new people have joined this band, essentially. They have 2 new creative minds, creative ideas coming to the forefront. And their influences are going to mix in with Linkin Park, like the core, what remains of Linkin Park, of the original lineup. Those new influences are going to stand out in some form or fashion in the final product, and they do. You can hear them pretty clearly. But, this is a new chapter of the band. Like, you have to judge like, this has to be judged accordingly through the music. Let the music speak for itself. If you don't like their new album because you don't like their new album, that's fine. But, like, genuinely speaking, what, they don't have any right to continue the band that they started, however, like, what, 25 years ago, 26 years ago, something like that? Like, that's ridiculous. That's absurd to even think about. So overall, I enjoyed this album. My highlights from it, I would say, would be The Emptiness Machine, Heavy as the Crown, Over Each Other, Two-Faced, and Good Things Go. You know, those are definitely the highlights on the album. I'm really hoping that this is a step in the right direction, or I wouldn't say in the right direction. I hope that this is a taste of the direction that they're going into, or that they're going to be going. You know, it the one thing I will say about this entire situation is it sucks we couldn't have gotten more music like this with Chester. And I understand that people like creatively, you want to do different things, yada yada yada. But it really sucks that we couldn't have gotten something similar to this, because I mean, realistically speaking, this album has more screaming on it, like actual screaming on it, than the like from 2000 what, like 8 or 9 to 2017 of like the latter half of Linkin Park's initial career with Chester. Like, it sucks that we weren't able to get any more of this kind of style from them. And I'm glad that they're coming back, and like they're giving a little bit of that nostalgia trip with it, which I mean, clearly it's there, but I just wish that it could have happened sooner. Because while I do respect and appreciate the idea of the artist wanting to try and not be pigeon, or what was it, shoehorned, or what's the hell, pigeonholed, I think, right, into one particular genre. They didn't want to do the new metal rap metal kind of thing anymore. They didn't want to be known just for that. That's fine. But I think they strayed so far with creatively that they were just, I mean, it's like the classic saying, a jack of all trades is a master of none kind of situation. You can want to go do all these poppy different things, and I respect that. But realistically speaking, if you go talk to 90% of Linkin Park fans, most of them are going to say that Meteora and Hybrid Theory are fantastic, front to back, no skips. Like, you would play that thing and find absolutely no problem listening to it front to back. And that shows in their singles review, not singles review, their singles release that they had with, what was it, Friendly Fire? It was a green cover. I forget what it was called. The One More Light Sessions or something like that, right? And it shows, because when you go and you look at that, 90% of their stuff on that album is from their first 3 albums. Well, I wouldn't say 90%, it's more like 80%, but it is heavy-handed in their earlier work. And they know it's their most popular work, but it's just also more of it's one of those things where it sucks that they couldn't have given us even like a modernized version of a lot of this kind of music. And I just wish that they could, how do I say it? Yeah, I just wish we really could have gotten that stuff with Chester. And while they're, oh, okay, so actually to get to the initial point I had before, I kind of lost it there. Like, they're a master, like all their other albums, like, I mean, I can kind of even throw, what is it, Minutes to Midnight on there, even though that one's a little bit more controversial, I guess. But, you go to listen to A Thousand Suns, Living Things, I think it was The Hunting Party after that, and then One More Light. Like, those albums, they're mainly carried by like those handful of singles. The rest of the albums, in my opinion, are just, they don't have the same impact. Like they did, like Linkin Park did really, really good at a couple songs, but they were not good enough, in my opinion, as albums as a whole. Like, and what I mean by that is not to say that I can do any better, because I absolutely can't. But the albums themselves, they don't stand, like the rest of the albums feel like filler to the singles off of them. Whereas when you go and you listen to, like I said, their first two albums, or well, Hybrid Theory and Meteora, and then I mean, I'll even extend it to Minutes to Midnight, because there's more people who who like all of Minutes to Midnight than to the contrary, which would be me. But those albums arguably stand up on themselves as a whole as a whole creative production. Whereas a lot of the other albums, like Living Things, A Thousand Suns, The Hunting Party, and One More Light, they don't, in my opinion. They were really, Linkin Park was really, really, really good at the new metal, rap rock style that they did. And it just sucks we couldn't get something like that one last time, or something like this album one last time with Chester. So, well, geez, this is going on for a long time, a lot longer than I expected. Well, because the YouTube algorithm is weird as hell. Don't know how this is going to work, but for whatever godforsaken reason, this manages to claw its way out from the depths of hell that is the YouTube void. And if anyone from Linkin Park happens to watch this, if this is where you guys are starting from, like, if this is your from zero position, I am very excited for what the future is for like newer material and things of that nature. Like, I'm sure, because you've got two new creative heads in there, you guys got to work out all the kinks. You're still trying to find each other's strengths, yada yada yada. But I'm sure once you buff out those scratches and smooth out all the rough edges, I'm sure you guys can make something fantastic, like really fantastic, that even tops this album, or might even rival that of your earlier material. Like, there is a lot of potential here, and this is honestly a fantastic start to a new chapter, because even realistically speaking, a lot of bands today that I've been listening to still can't even like conjure up an album this good, in my opinion. But anyways, thanks to everyone who managed to, going on 50, almost 54 minutes, who managed to survive to the end, I guess is a better way of saying it. And yeah, I will have to try to find a way to shorten these reviews by at least half of this at some point. But until that time, we're just going to deal with it, and we're going to run with it, because that's why it's called a rambling review. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.